Ecclesiastes 10. We're at verse 9. Ecclesiastes 10, verse 9. In a previous verse, Solomon had told us that we need to be careful about digging a pit for whom? For our neighbor. Because we might what? We might just fall into that pit ourselves. And we need to be very careful about removing a hedge that separates us from our neighbor, because what might happen? Nobody remembers? You might get bit by what? You might get bit by a snake in the process. Here you are trying to do evil, and that evil comes back to what? To bite you. Yes, so we need to be very careful about the concept of trying to carry out vengeance on other individuals. If there is any vengeance that is going to be carried out, who will do it? God will. Vengeance belongeth to me. I will repay, saith the Lord. So we leave that to Him. Will He always be right in His vengeance? Oh yes, He will always be right. But Solomon now turns to something that could happen just in an average, ordinary day. Listen to what he says. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith. And he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. Wow. Everyday actions can bring harm. Is that true? Oh yeah. Every day when you and I get up, guess what we do? We face risks, don't we? And you never know exactly what is going to transpire. Even the most simple things can sometimes bring harm, can't they? The other day I had some pages that I'd run off and I couldn't get them separated, so I was trying to separate them. Have you ever tried to do that? And all of a sudden I get the worst paper cut that you could possibly imagine. That's just aggravating. I was stuck like a pig. I was bleeding, had to stop everything, had to put pressure on it, go wash it, put a Band-Aid on it, hurt for 3 or 4 days. Just average, ordinary day things can bring harm to our lives, can't they? Those who remove stones can be hurt by stones, can't you? Oh, stone roll on your foot, roll on your finger, and all of a sudden you're going crazy, aren't you? An individual might be cleaving wood. What does he mean by cleaving wood? Cutting wood. And can you be endangered thereby? Oh yes, there have been people who have chopped off limbs, when they're cleaving wood. Hit their foot with an axe, hit their leg with an axe. All of a sudden you sling that axe head and it flies off somewhere and does some damage. Average day things can bring harm to our lives. Let me ask you this. Can we protect ourselves from everything? No, you can't do that. And what's crazy is we live in a society today that tries to do that, don't we? Man, we are trying to protect ourselves from every little thing that comes along. And when you compare it to what we did 50 years ago, you laugh, don't you? Look at car seats 50 years ago versus now. Right? I mean, they were little bitty things. They didn't have any straps in them. They were made of metal. You just sat your kid in there and said, sit there. Right? And guess what Mom and Dad did? They drove with no seat belt. Can you believe that? Man, no seat belt. I remember when the seat belts came out, I hated them nasty things. And I told myself I would never put one of them things on. Well, guess what? That ain't true. Wear one all the time. Driving an automobile has dangers attached to it, doesn't it? I just put down some examples. Using a hammer to drive a nail. Everybody knows about that one, don't we? While shaving, a man can cut himself. Same is true of ladies, or at least it used to be. When they shave their legs or whatever, you see a lady come in, she's got all this, stuff all spotted on her legs. You go, man, you need to learn how to shave or something. I've already mentioned number 4, in an office a person can get a paper cut. Can he? Or how about the last one? Cutting grass and weed-eating yards has a hazard to it, doesn't it? One of the things I can't stand on my weed eater is the protective cover. Ain't that crazy? I know that sounds stupid, but that protective cover gets all in my way. So the first thing I do when I buy one is I take it off. That's dumb. Okay, but that's what I do. I can't weed eat good with that thing on there. So one day I was out weeding. I didn't used to wear safety glasses. Okay, I got to weeding that yard. Boy, something flew up, hit me right here at the corner of my eye. My next purchase was safety glasses. Okay, I may not have a shield anymore down there on that thing, but I'm going to protect my eyes because something can happen, can't they? Can you be the most skilled individual in your profession and still something happen? Oh, yes. I have a friend of mine, he's still a friend. He's just not a friend on the earth anymore. He was EMT. He was well trained in his profession, and I mean, he loved it. We had a lady fall in church one day. She just passed out right in church, and buddy, he went into action. It was unbelievable to watch that man do what he did. He loved what he did. He was also highly skilled in rescue techniques. They could rescue out of caves. They could do deep water rescues, all kinds of things. And one day they were training, and they were doing a deep sea training expedition. And he went down under the water. He was with a buddy, but somehow he got disoriented when he was down there. And he thought, I need to get to the top as quickly as I can. So he started swimming for the surface. Well, rather than swimming up, he swam down. And his buddy could not get to him, and he died, drowned that day out on a training expedition. And I mean a highly skilled individual. You'd have never thought that could ever happen. Folks, there are dangers out there in life, and Solomon is just warning us about those. And I just wrote some things down that you and I can do to protect ourselves a little bit. You know, number one, just use caution. Okay? Just use caution about things. You don't have to be overly cautious. You know, you don't have to be ridiculously cautious. We can harm ourselves that way too, can't we? But use some caution. Secondly, take care. How about this third one? Think. Just think. You know, sometimes we get moving too fast. We get to thinking about something else, and we quit thinking about what we really need to think about, and all of a sudden we find ourselves injured, don't we? Look for the dangers. Don't get in a hurry. Don't do crazy things. Okay, now I've already told you I do a crazy thing, taking that shield off my weed eater. But you shouldn't do those kind of things. Heed warnings, follow rules. How about this next one? Don't get too cocky. You know, some people get kind of cocky, don't they? Thinking they can do all kinds of things. Have y'all seen these guys that jump from building to building? And they jump from, maybe it's over water and they're jumping from one pier to another and it's just a plank that's out there. You just go, man, these guys are nuts, you know. And eventually, guess what happens? They get hurt. Okay, sometimes they get killed by doing those kind of things. They get a little bit too cocky. Show off, know your limits, and exercise extreme caution when you're what? When you're tired. That's when it's the worst to do. So Solomon just gives us some just plain good ordinary advice for life, doesn't he? Be careful. Every day has risks involved in it. Just stepping off a step, can you get hurt? Oh, yes. And you think you couldn't, but you can. Be careful. Ecclesiastes 10, verse 10. I love this verse. If the iron be blunt, and he do not whet the edge, then must he put to more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. Now that last statement seems a little weird, doesn't it? Wisdom is profitable to direct. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's talk about the first part, okay? There is an old saying that says this: always keep your axe sharp. Always keep your axe sharp. And that's all Solomon is teaching in the first part of that verse. If the iron be blunt, and he do not whet the edge, what does he mean by that? He doesn't sharpen the edge. Guess what? Then must he put forth what? More strength. That's all Solomon is saying. If the iron is blunt, then you have to use more strength, more effort to accomplish what you want to accomplish, don't you? Takes more strokes to cut the tree down. Absolutely. You may need a whole new axe, mightn't you? You're right. If you're using a saw, that saw gets difficult to push and pull, doesn't it? It may take a lot more effort to sharpen that thing later. I got a little knife that I carry around, and I've got the greatest little sharpener in my desk. And sometimes I'll just take out my little sharpener and put 3 or 4 or 5 strokes on it. And every time I use my knife, guess what? It's just as sharp as it can be. Okay? If I don't do it for a month or 2 or 3, man, I have to sit there with that thing and sharpen it for about 10 minutes trying to get it back to some sharpness. So just, a little bit of time and you can sharpen your axe. Like you say, you may have to purchase a whole new blade, mightn't you? I've got a saw at home and it doesn't work worth a plug nickel. Okay, not a plug nickel. I've never sharpened it. Okay, so that's my problem. And I just need to throw it away and go get another. I'll still try to use it. That's where I'm even more dumb, I got it out the other day. I don't even know why I got it out. I knew it wouldn't cut. Unbelievable. Some people believe that stopping to wet the edge is what? A waste of time. Okay? And guess what, folks? It's not, is it? A sharp axe, a sharp saw will save you time. There was we went on a kind of a mission work after a tornado went through in Alabama on one occasion. We got down there. You've never seen so many fallen trees in all your life. They'd already been working like 10 weeks on the city, and they still had huge trees that were down. This one I was at Paris, Tennessee. And we had a couple of guys, they're just country old fellas, and one guy had 2 different chainsaws that he brought with him and knew how to work those things unbelievably well. And we go out for about 4 hours in the morning from 8 to noon, and it was just constant. Cutting down trees. Well, at lunch, we had about an hour to an hour and a half break. He would eat real quick, about 15 or 20 minutes, and then guess what he did? He sat down and sharpened those little bitty blades one by one by one. Okay? Every day. I said, "What are you doing, man?" He said, "I'm keeping my blades sharp." He knew. If I don't, then my work this afternoon is going to get that much more difficult. I'm going to knock the blade off the chainsaw. It's not going to work the way it needs to work. I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do. So he spent an hour at lunch every day sharpening his blades. Come home that evening, eat supper. Guess what? Sharpen the blades, But during the time when he was cutting, guess what? No problems. Okay? He was fast as greased lightning. You couldn't hardly keep up with him. You'd pull a limb and come back, he'd have 3 more for you to pull. You go, I wish you'd mess up your blades. But a sharp axe will increase productivity. Now notice that last statement. He says this, "But wisdom is profitable to direct." Like I said, when you first read that, you just shake your head and wonder, what in the world is he talking about? And the reason is because of the translation of that last word. Okay? And that's the reason I tell you, folks, when you do Bible study, you have to do what? Look up the words. Find out what those words mean. Okay? Don't just overlook it. Well, I don't know what that means, so you just keep on reading. Don't do that. Okay? You got to look up the words. When you look up the words, Strong says it means this: to succeed or prosper. Wow. Brown, Driver, and Briggs says it means to succeed, to be advantageous. Now let's redefine the word. Wisdom is profitable to succeed. Does that make sense? You see, now it makes sense, doesn't it? Wisdom is profitable to prosper. Wisdom is useful for our advantage. Now, what in the world is he talking about? He's talking about what he's just saying. Wisdom. That guy, when he sat there at lunch for an hour sharpening his blades, was manifesting what? Wisdom. Wisdom is profitable for success. Okay? Folks, in everything we do, we need to be what? We need to be as wise as we possibly can. Okay? Wisdom is profitable to a successful life, even when it comes to the little things. This is not something that is being taught in our society anymore. You know that? Many parents have become extremely lazy when it comes to even their households and the teaching of their children to do little things. Okay? I just put down some other areas. Keep your house picked up from day to day. Right? We were at Center Hill last Sunday morning, and there was a young man there by the name of Andrew. He was in our cottage when we were house parents at the children's home. And he comes running up to us and saying hi. He's a faithful Christian and is married now and is just doing good. If you'd met Andrew years ago, you'd go, oh man, this poor kid. But he is doing fantastic. And very complimentary of me and Kathleen. And he was talking to me, and then Kathleen comes up, and we were meeting his wife, or I was meeting his wife for the first time. And I said, I'm not really the one who made a big difference with Andrew. I said, this woman right here, boy, there's the sergeant that put him through boot camp, man. And he said, yeah, you want to know what she taught me to do? She taught me to wash my dishes as I was preparing my meals. It drives his wife crazy because when he's cooking, he'll use a pot, he cleans it. Use another pot, cleans it. He does that as he goes. He doesn't get a big, sink full of dishes and then clean up. That's a pain, is it not? You see, you clean as you what? Clean as you go, and things are just a little bit what? A little bit gooder. Okay, a little bit easier. We men hadn't learned that yet. Making sure the oil is changed in your car. You used to have to watch that, don't you? Now you got these little lights that go ding. Okay, and they let you know, hey dummy, you need an oil change. Okay, but I remember when you had to really watch what? 3,000 miles? Oh, good grief. 3,000 miles came around all the stinking time, did it not? Or my dad would go out there. This is when it wasn't good. He'd go out there and look at my car and he'd say, Vic, when's the last time you changed your oil? I don't know, a couple months ago. No, You're only about 1,500 miles overdue. You pull that thing out and you check your oil and you're down to almost nothing. Okay? Can you ruin a car that way? Yes, you can, big time. How about this other one? Always keeping extra on hand of something that's important. Always. Okay? Guys, always have one extra. Okay? I use a certain kind of gel on my hair in case you can't tell. Okay? And guess what I ain't never going to do? I ain't never going to run out of it. Okay? There's never going to be a day when that blue stuff is not in a drawer somewhere. I got 2 other bottles. I know. I saw them this morning. Okay? I'm not running out of my hair gel. Right? Unbelievable. Have you ever run out of something and it aggravated you? Yeah. Just aggravates you to death, you know. Unbelievable. I love Lipton citrus-flavored diet green tea. I bought a 12-pack the other day. I drank one. It was the nastiest thing. I said, oh. So I set it aside. I pulled another one out of the package, and it was just as nasty as the first. Okay? And so I got to take this 12-pack back, but guess what I didn't have? I didn't have another 12-pack. Big dummy. You know? Always have what? An extra on hand. Had to go all the way to Walmart, 10 o'clock at night, to get a drink. I see, just unbelievable. I just have one more there, I'd been just fine. Unbelievable. How about this next one? Always have a little extra cash in your wallet. You know? I'm bad about that. I don't carry cash hardly anymore. But, oh, sometimes go to Osteen's and you need cash. But the other day we went somewhere and they even said, no cash taken, you know. And there's some people today that are going back to cash because of the way society is. Okay, we're trying to go to a digital currency in our nation, and folks, people are scared of that. And so a lot of people now are going back to using cash on a regular basis. And what you find is there's places that just don't let you use cash anymore. A play off of that is, do you always need a second credit card? Yeah. See, we have American Express so that we can get our flyer miles. Well, no, let me take that back. We have American Express so Kathleen can have her flyer miles, okay? She ain't driving to Memphis like Vicki is. She's flying to Memphis. She's the smarter one of the bunch. And but there's some places that don't take American Express. I've gone there, stuck that card in, declined, stuck the card in, declined, stuck the card in again, declined. The woman finally looks at me and says, "That's American Express, ain't it?" Yes. Thank the Lord, I've got a second card, okay? And it's a Visa. There you go. It's a Visa. So always make certain you have a little extra. How about this other? Save some money for a what? For a rainy day. Okay? Guys, here's what's amazing to me. Solomon's talking about just basic principles of life, is he not? You know? Sharpen your axe so that your day will be profitable. Okay? Always make certain your axe is sharp. Never let it get dull. You'll save a lot of strength. You'll save a lot of power. And yet, these simple principles are laughed at in our society. And many of them aren't being taught by parents anymore to children. There was I believe it was a lieutenant colonel. He did a graduation ceremony for a college. And his speech went viral because of what he said. And he said the first thing that everybody needs to do when they wake up in the morning is make their bed. Make your bed. And he told that here he is talking to, people who just graduated from college, think they're the smartest things in the world. And he tells them what? Every day when you get up, make your bed first. You want to know why? Because you start your day with an accomplishment. Isn't that something? You've done something positive, right? And you can look back and you can say, I put in the effort and the energy, and look at that bed. Doesn't it look good? I don't know about you, but a made bed looks a whole lot better than an unmade bed. Okay? Make your beds. But we just don't teach that in a lot of places anymore. Questions, comments? Anybody? Nobody? All right, let's look at the very next verse, Ecclesiastes 10:11. Surely the serpent will bite without what? Without enchantment. And a babbler is no better. Oh, man. This has got to be good. If you're talking about a serpent and a babbler in the same sentence, this has got to be good, doesn't it? Okay? Unreal. In this verse, Solomon is comparing two things, is he not? A serpent and a babbler. He's making comparison between the two. True or false? A serpent's bite is painful, especially if it's the right serpent, isn't it? It injects deadly poison into the victim. The bite itself stings, burns, and swells. And the venom can do all kinds of damage to a person's body, can it not? I just put a few down there. Breathing can be impacted when heart rate can be targeted. Bites sometimes paralyze the victim, and some bites cause one's skin to rot. And I gave you a picture there of a man been bitten by a snake on his foot. Ain't that pretty? Ugh. That is just plumb nasty, folks. Aren't you glad we have another hour before we have to go to lunch? Yes, sir.
There was a show yesterday about Australian problems and stuff, and they showed this guy, he took some snake venom and put it into a vial with blood, and the blood just hardened into like a rock.
No. See? It's unbelievable, isn't it? Can death come from a snake bite? Yes. Even death can come from a snake bite. Okay? Now, but I want you to listen to what Solomon says, right? Pay close attention to his words. Yes, a snake is deadly. A snake is dangerous. And a snake can harm you. But listen to what he says. Surely the serpent will bite. But notice what he says. Without enchantment. Now you turn that statement around and what he says is what? A serpent will not bite with enchantment. Isn't that something? Solomon traveled, guys, all over the world doing his experiments. And I bet you part of his travels took him into a place called India. You know it? And guess what's big over there? Snake charming. And guess what? He saw that it worked. Have you seen it done? Here these guys can sit within inches of a snake. I saw a guy the other day on one of the Facebook posts or somewhere, and he had that snake so charmed he reached down, he just kissed the top of that snake's head. And it was a cobra that he kissed. Now Vic ain't doing that. Okay? I'm no charmer. Okay? My wife will tell you that. But Vic ain't kissing no snake. Okay? But it can be done, can it? So his whole point is this. Yes, a snake is dangerous. A snake is deadly. But it can be what? It can be charmed. Now he goes on, and what's the next thing he says? He says, and a babbler is no better. Okay? I looked up the word babbler. It comes from two words in the Hebrew language. One word is man, and the other word is tongue. Babbler is a man who uses his tongue in inappropriate ways. A babbler is no better than a snake without a charmer. Okay? Are there a lot of different sins we can commit with the tongue? Yeah. I just put down 7 of them. They're lying, gossiping, false witness, cursing, false teaching, blasphemy, boasting. All of those things are sins of the tongue. And that's only a short list of the sins of the tongue. Go do a study of the sins of the tongue. And it is unbelievable how long that list can be. Can a babbler wound and hurt and harm others? Absolutely. James says so in James 3 verse 6. The tongue is a fire, a whirl of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Man.
You look at a babbler and a gossiper sometimes in the same way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the sins. Well, can lying harm others? Oh, yeah. Just lying. They set up false witnesses against our Lord, did they not? You know, in an attempt to have Him crucified. They knew they needed to go through the court process, so they had to find false witnesses because they had no truth that He had violated whatsoever. Oh, absolutely. He despises it. I put down some things that a tongue used inappropriately can do. It can damage relationships, can it? It can ruin reputations. All you have to do is say something bad about a person, you know. And guys, just because I can say something bad about someone doesn't mean I have to, even if it's the truth. I can still damage the person's his reputation, can I? And why would I want to be the one to do that? You know? It can cause false imprisonment. Individuals have been fired from jobs. Unused potential. You know? Here you've got an individual and he's trying to do something right. And maybe he messes up. Maybe he's a new Christian. He messes up a little bit. And the first thing you think you got to do is jump down his throat. And you know what he does? He withdraws. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And he lives the next 10 years not using his potential. Whereas if you just take him aside, laughed at him a little bit, shown him what he needs to do, help him, encourage him, guess what? He'll use that potential and won't sit on the sidelines doing nothing. Okay? That's what I meant by that unused potential. Have there been individuals who have committed suicide because of the tongue of another person? Folks, online bullying today is one of the big things that causes suicide in young people, isn't it? It's still the use of the tongue. It's just typed out, isn't it? There's no difference in it. Lost souls. False teaching causes lost souls, does it not? Man. I want you to note something, though. Just as the serpent can be tamed, so can the tongue. Okay, now remember, a serpent is deadly as long as it doesn't have a what? A charmer. Guess what our tongues need? A charmer. That's what our tongues need. It takes commitment. It takes focus. It takes patience. It means the removal of all excuses. We love excuses, don't we? You know? Well, I just cuss. I just can't help it. You know, it just makes me so mad, I just have to cuss. No, you don't. No, we don't. You know? How do we know we can? James 1:26. If any man among you seemeth to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue. Man, that tells me that I can what? I can bridle my tongue. Okay? He's saying if you're religious but you don't bridle your tongue, that means you can do it, but you choose not to do it. But deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is vain. If I'm going to be around a snake, you want to know what I want with me? I want a charmer. You know? Here, you stand in front of that crazy thing. And if I'm going to be talked to by someone, I hope that their tongue has been what? Charmed as well, don't you? Because it's easy for us to not do that. Questions or comments? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Bill.
In the military, in our signal corps, we pull our bands into the woods to set up the communication center. The minute we start those generators out there, it vibrates the ground. And doing that, it causes the snakes to start crawling. And we go on a snake hunt.
No.
4 hours that we're in the woods. And some guy got curious and bold, killed 3 of the poison snakes and hung on our unit sign. And the visiting general came by and almost put our whole unit on report.
Oh, man. Unbelievable.
But you start the generator and those snakes will start going.
You learned another life lesson, didn't you? Be careful when you start your generator. Best thing you can do now is probably go buy one of them solar generators. They don't vibrate. All right. Any more questions, comments? Anybody? Bridle your tongue. Be careful of the risks that you take where? In life. Okay? Dutch?
Back to the whet the iron.
Yes.
Soldiers, when they went into battle, always sharpened their swords.
Absolutely.
Our sword is our Bible. How do we sharpen our Bible? By our knowledge.
Got to whet our sword, don't we? Got to whet our sword. All righty, very good. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We will pick up on verse 12 next week, slowly but surely.